Hey everyone, welcome to the latest edition of the Business Outlook podcast. I'm your host, Matthew Narvaiz, Journal Business Editor. On the show today, we have Colonel Justin Secrest. He is the new Kirtland Air Force Base installation commander. We talk about his journey in the Air Force, his priorities as the new base commander, and a recent economic impact report that shows a pretty robust presence by Kirtland here in the Albuquerque area. Hope you enjoyed the show.
If you enjoy our podcast, please like and subscribe and consider becoming a digital subscriber to the Albuquerque Journal to help us bring you more content like this. You can find this episode and all of our podcasts on the Albuquerque Journal website, abqjournal.com, as well as YouTube, iTunes, and Spotify. See the show notes for a discount code on a digital subscription. Thank you for supporting the Albuquerque Journal, New Mexico's leading news.
Colonel Secrest, thank you for coming on the show. I just want to start off with you introducing yourself to our listeners. So you're relatively new to Kirtland Air Force Base. You're the installation commander, correct?
That's correct.
Tell us a little bit about your history in the Air Force. How long have you been in it, and where did you come from before this?
Oh, awesome. Yeah. So Justin Secrest, been in the Air Force just over 37 years. I'm from Ohio, from the Appalachian region of Ohio, down where Ohio, Pennsylvania, and West Virginia get together. And in 1988, I decided I wanted to leave that area. And so I enlisted, and it's been an awesome journey. I was a security forces enlisted airman and NCO, and then I did secure communications maintenance, taught in an NCO academy, and then eventually really decided I wanted to lead at a different level and wanted to get commissioned, and been a career security forces leader, officer. Did a little time in the Pentagon and the National Military Command Center as a presidential strike advisor. That was very interesting. And then eventually, I landed here. I didn't really see this in the cards, but super excited to be here at this installation. Installation commander, neat term. But the truth is, there's 108 mission partners on that installation. Wow. And a lot of things going on. So I'm sort of a representative, if you will, for them. Obviously, I'm accountable and have to get some things done, but it's not a one-person show. Yeah. We work together. So I think that's what I would tell you about who I am and how I got here.
37 years in the Air Force.
Yes,
Did you ever think, from the start that you were going to make this a career? Or?
No, well, not. I probably thought I was going to make it a career. Where I'm from, farmers, factory workers. Mom was a teacher. Having a steady income, and insurance is awesome. And so I probably wanted to get to that point, but never dreamed this. I was telling Daniel, our PA, on the way over here, I came here on a temporary duty in March of 1989, not long after I came in. And we were actually heading to Socorro, south of here, but we came through here. And all the bases that I had seen were either training bases or a little ICBM base that was very old and antiquated. And Kirtland was the first base that I ever saw that was like a real Air Force base. We land on, on the airfield, and there were stoplights and, and I was telling him just how kind of crazy it is. I would have never dreamed as an airman first class that I would ever be a guy that would be back here and doing what I'm doing now. It's a little bit hard to imagine.
Yeah, I've lived here my whole life, and it wasn't until Christmas of last year I did a little feature story on some of the folks in the Air Force, a lunch that they had, and I took a tour of the base a little bit. It's kind of like its own city.
It is.
If you will.
It is. We have, fire department and, police and all those things. There's civil engineers. There's a lot going on every day.
How much has it changed since, you were last here in 1989?
Well, I've never actually been assigned here until now. But I'd come here, TDY multiple times. I think probably what's changed is there's just more of everything. So if you go back to 1971, we had an air base. There's some very historical ties to the city of Albuquerque and that air base. But then you had Manzano Base, and of course you had Sandia Base, and they all had different functions. And then we merged them together in 1971. And when we did that, that's a lot, right? We created a national security complex at that point, rather than just a base, an air base. And so it is massive. The amount of goodness, if you will, for our national security that comes out of the research and the activities that are on that installation are truly remarkable.
I want to touch on the more than 100 mission partners at Kirtland. I'm not too familiar with that term. Maybe you can explain it to our listeners a little bit.
Right.
How that works.
100%. So you can almost think of it like I'm a host. As the 377th Air Base Wing, we host tenants. We call them mission partners because it's just a better way to address it, right? But they live on our installation. So Sandia National Labs, Air Force Research Laboratory, Air Force Operational Test and Evaluation Center, the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, major players that are out there. And of course, you have some other missions, like we were just talking before the podcast a little bit about PJs and what they do. And we train them out there. And then the 58th Special Operations Wing trains all of our pilots for that type of mission is out there. And then also the 150th Special Operations Wing, which is a New Mexico Air National Guard wing. They also participate. So lots of critical functions that we have out there.
It sounds like on a daily there's a lot of activity happening at the base, which kind of leads me and to you sort of why we're here, right? So there was a recent economic impact report that your team released, and it shows that you guys delivered $7.5 billion in economic impact in fiscal year 24. So that goes from I believe October of 2023 through the end of September of 24. That is a pretty significant jump from the last time you guys released a report in fiscal year 22, about a $3 billion jump. Maybe you could walk us through that number a little bit and what it means.
Yeah, it's not insignificant for us. The jump, really, I think you'll see Sandia had a big push on that. What helped there, because they did some specialized things and brought in some extra folks. I think they added like $2.2 billion. We'll check my numbers, but I'm pretty sure it was that. $7.5 billion is the big number. Our construction that contributed to that went up 275%. Because we built the new elementary school on the base, which we're so thankful for to have that out there. The Gibson Child Development Center, which we're also very thankful to be getting close to getting that thing going. Those were built. And of course, the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, if you've been out to the base, you've seen they have a very nice facility that just got built. And, those all contributed to that number. I want to, on that though, it's a synergistic relationship, because when we do those things, when we generate that type of economic impact, 12% of Albuquerque's GDP, when we generate that kind of economic impact, it's showing the growth and the transformation of the base, and we're moving along. But it's synergistic in that what is good for us is good for Albuquerque, and when Albuquerque thrives, it's good for us, because it brings in more people. It improves the quality of life around the area. So I think I'd like to highlight that for folks. It's not a look at us. We're putting $7.5 billion out. It's a synergistic thing. We want to look at it that way.
Yeah. So you brought up an interesting figure. So yes, Kirtland, according to this report, accounted for about 12% of the metro's economic activity over that fiscal year. And contributed about $2.1 billion toward job creation across the states. In light of those economic contributions, how does the base coordinate, specifically with local businesses and government to ensure, sustained economic growth for the region, for the area?
I think the first thing I would highlight on that is, we use contracts for a lot of things. Sandia, all of us, and we get after small business with that. And so, to your point, I think the almost $1.1 billion that we put in just contracting out here locally is a good example of how we do that. You're bringing in businesses that are trying to go, that are trying to get going, and offering them some business to get going. So I think that's a big thing. And there's an up and downstream to that too. Contractors have subcontractors, and it's just goodness all around. You're spreading some real economic growth.
Yeah. So, you got here in July, after, this report was sort of compiled, right? Of course, I'd figure you'd want in the next biannual report, right, for this number to increase again. How, is your leadership now how are you going to try to increase, this economic activity here at the base and, contribute to the region's, Yeah.
Well, I think 6 weeks in, if you read any book on leadership, which I've kind of stopped doing that because they keep saying the same thing over and over again. But we're in the sensing phase. My chief and I and my team, we're feeling everything out. There's a lot. It's complicated, right? There's a lot of mission partners. You have a lot of stakeholders off base that I'm meeting. But I will tell you this. One of the things I believe we need to look at capacity. And there's a lot of tools for doing that now. We're going down that road. Like, what do we need? We could sit here and discuss, like, I think we need this or I think we need this, but facts beat guessing every time, right? And so we're in that phase right now, is gathering some data, maybe getting some big data visualizations of what we need, and then go after those things. But to your point in the original question, that will ultimately lead in us obviously needing things which will generate growth.
Yeah. And this is kind of a similar question, but how do you plan to increase or sustain that economic footprint, with balancing Kirtland's mission priorities and evolving base operations?
Well, it is one of the things I didn't mention is I have an operational mission and I have an air base wing type support mission. One of the key things I think that gets after your point is, what does the proverb say? If you chase two rabbits, you'll not catch either of them. So one of the things that I'm doing is making sure we're focusing. You have the base support infrastructure with all the mission partners. That is a mission area. Yep. And then I have my maintenance area, the airfield, that area, and to do two distinct lines of effort and get the right people working on each one of those areas so that we can continue balancing and continue growing where we need to grow in the right areas.
Yeah. Can you give me an example of how Kirtland gets out into the local community, maybe outside of the base and, really spread the message of what it is that you guys are doing here?
Oh, 100%. Well, loosely tied, we recently had an air show, and that's not getting out, but it's bringing out into the base to see what's going on. With the balloon fiesta that's coming up, you're going to see, we're a big part of that. Our folks volunteer, get out and contribute, and we have folks coaching, folks that are working at shelters, folks that are members of the community all over that I've already met just in my 6 weeks. And even at this level, you walk around, you see a lot of that. I know the 4th of July, my family and I, we were very new, like 3 days into the job, and we went out to the fireworks out at the balloon park. And we also went and saw it's slipping my mind. Hang on. The baseball team.
Isotopes.
The Isotopes.
Yeah.
I can't believe that. So we're out. I think I'll see more of it the longer that I'm here, but I know we're deeply tied to the community.
Yeah. And so, I know you've been here just over a month, but, in terms of, and maybe this is the wrong term, in terms of, marketing Kirtland to the local community here, how has that changed, or how will that change, considering the evolving technology we have nowadays, right? Social media is so ever present.
Yeah. I know that with both AFRL and Sandia National Labs, the amount of research that we're doing on that type of thing, not necessarily specifically in my wing, but the folks that live out there, I think we will take advantage of whatever we can. And when you live next to someone, everyone wants Sandia National Labs or wants AFRL, but we happen to live with them.
Yeah.
And so I think we'll leverage whatever we can as mission partners to get after that.
Yeah. Last question for you, Colonel, is, with this strong economic presence as the report, is showing us, what role do you see Kirtland playing in regional resilience, especially, in terms of workforce development, community investments, and innovation?
I think we can be a big help to the local area. I think, like I'll use my fire department. We need to hire firefighters.
Yeah.
And it's a way for someone to kind of get their foot in the door. You could start as a firefighter, and then over time, learn things, be around folks, experience other opportunities. Yeah, just so at the human level,
Yeah.
These are ways that we can continue developing resilience. And then on the the things level, technology level, the sometimes in defense, the things that we're researching for that function actually have side benefits, whether that's power generation or, technology in general. That while we're learning all those things, I think that could have a very good spillover effect for the region, for resiliency.
Colonel Secrest, thank you for coming on the show. Appreciate it.
It's been my pleasure. Thank you very much.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the podcast. Just wanted to leave you with a couple of notes. So we're going to be taking a 2-month break from doing the Business Outlook podcast. We're looking at reformatting how we do this thing. Here soon, we're going to be sending out a survey from the journal in terms of what it is that our listeners want to see and hear on the podcast. If you have any suggestions, you can reach me by email at mnarvaiz, that's MNARVAIZ @abqjournal.com. Thanks.